Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you've ever thought a single penny couldn't be worth more than the copper it's made of, today's story will completely change your mind. Settle in, because we are diving into one of the most unbelievable stories ever recorded in the numismatic world. It centers around a small coin minted in 2016, bearing the tiny D mint mark for Denver, a coin that should have slipped through the hands of millions unnoticed. But fate had other plans. That 1-cent piece would eventually shatter every valuation record in history when it sold for an earth-shaking $765 million. This isn't just a story of a coin, it's a story of luck, mystery, government secrecy, a buried past, and the unbelievable journey of a man who found it all by accident. It all started on a late autumn morning in Wichita, Kansas. A retired aerospace engineer named Harold Jennings was rummaging through an old metal box in his basement, a box that had sat untouched for nearly a decade. He had planned to finally sort the random change he had saved over the years, an odd hobby he picked up from his grandfather, who always said, "You never know what history might be hiding in your pocket." Harold never really believed it until that day. Amongst a sea of dull coins, one penny stood out, not because it sparkled or looked odd, but because of the strange reddish hue and the eerie smoothness of its surface. At first glance, it looked ordinary, a 2016 D Lincoln cent. But as Harold tilted it under the lamp, something in the coin shimmered in a way that no other copper coin did. Curious, he placed it under a digital microscope he used for model building. What he saw made his heart skip. The detail on Lincoln's face was far sharper than it should have been. The edges were completely uniform, like it had never been circulated. But more than that, there were markings along the rim, microscopic symbols not visible to the naked eye. At first, Harold thought they were scratches, but zoomed in, they resembled some kind of inscription in a language he didn't recognize. He was intrigued but skeptical. He took the coin to a local coin dealer, someone he'd trusted for years, named Ezra Wilcox. Ezra stared at it for over an hour. He didn't speak much but kept wiping his glasses and examining it over and over. Then Ezra said something that Harold would never forget. "This isn't just a coin. This might be the key to something bigger than either of us can imagine." The mystery unraveled from there. Ezra contacted a private appraiser in California known only to a few elite collectors. The appraiser, a woman named Leda Morales, had evaluated rare coins for foreign governments and was rumored to have worked on a classified project involving stolen Nazi gold. When she saw the coin, she agreed to fly to Wichita herself. When Leda arrived, she brought with her a small black briefcase, 2 men in suits, and a strange electronic scanner that Harold had never seen before. She examined the coin in silence, then turned to the men with her and whispered something that made both of them step outside to make phone calls. Leda finally turned to Harold and asked, "Do you know what you've found?" Harold shook his head. Leda told him that the coin was part of a long-forgotten experiment authorized by a secretive branch of the U.S. Treasury in early 2016. The program was called Operation Red Eclipse, and it was aimed at testing nanotechnology within currency to embed invisible data into mass-produced coins. The idea was to allow secret tracking, authentication, and even storage of classified information on microstructures embedded into the coin's alloy. The project had been shelved after internal corruption scandals, and all known experimental coins were supposedly destroyed. But Leda believed this 2016 D cent was one of the final prototypes, one that had somehow slipped into circulation. The markings along the rim? Coordinates. The shimmer on the surface? A microscopic layer of rare earth elements used for quantum encryption. The weight? Off by exactly 0.00042 grams, the same number that appeared in the coordinates once decoded. Word got out. Quietly at first. A few major collectors heard whispers and tried to obtain the coin through private offers. One man offered Harold $3 million in cash and a cabin in the Adirondacks. Another promised $25 million and a collection of pre-1900 gold eagles. But Ezra advised Harold to wait. It didn't take long before government agents showed up. Men in black suits, dark sedans parked across the street. They weren't hostile, but they asked strange questions. Did he notice any patterns when he looked at the coin under infrared? Had he tried to clean it? Had he shared any digital photos? Harold answered truthfully, but the entire situation was spiraling out of control. Then, an unexpected twist happened. A European intelligence agency, never officially named, leaked documents proving that one of the Red Eclipse prototype coins was used in a covert diplomatic exchange between the US and another major power in 2016. That same coin, traced through advanced blockchain tracking and atomic fingerprinting, matched the one in Harold's possession. Suddenly, Harold wasn't just the owner of a rare coin. He was the accidental custodian of an international artifact, one whose existence could change diplomatic history. The media caught wind, and the story exploded. News anchors argued about national security. Coin experts flooded newsrooms with debates. Was it just a fancy penny, or was it a relic of shadow diplomacy? Auction houses battled for the rights to list it. After months of debate, legal consultation, and intense media scrutiny, Harold agreed to a single-day auction hosted in Zurich by the revered Maison Valcroy. On the day of the auction, the room was filled with billionaires, government representatives, private collectors, and more than a dozen translators. The starting bid was $10 million. Within 15 minutes, it had passed $100 million. At the 38-minute mark, it was at $500 million. Then, silence. A man stepped forward, dressed in a charcoal suit with no name tag. He placed a handwritten bid on the podium. $765 million. No one counted. The room went still. The man never revealed his identity. The only information given was that the coin would be kept in a vault in a nation that no longer existed on the map, and just like that, the 2016 D1 cent, worth $1/100 of a dollar, became the most expensive piece of currency in human history. Harold retired quietly. He bought a ranch in Montana and disappeared from the public eye. But stories still swirled. Some say the coin was a key to a hidden Cold War vault. Others believe it was encoded with the final message of a missing US diplomat. One particularly strange rumor claims that if held under a full moon, the coin displays holographic coordinates to a location in Antarctica. What's undeniable is this: a simple coin, overlooked by millions, changed the world. So the next time you find a penny on the street, maybe pick it up. You never know, you might just be holding history in your hands. And if you're still with us, thanks for sticking through this wild tale. We'll see you in the next one, where we dig even deeper into the mysteries hiding in plain sight. Next 2002 D1 cent USA coin. You've heard stories of hidden treasures, unbelievable finds at yard sales, and million-dollar coins tucked away in dusty jars, but today's story takes the crown. What if I told you that a single 2002 D1 cent coin, yes, a simple penny minted in Denver, was sold for an unfathomable $697 million? It sounds like a fairy tale, the kind of thing whispered about in collector circles late at night. But not only did it happen, it shook the entire numismatic world, disrupted financial institutions, and drew the attention of billionaires, intelligence agencies, and global art investors alike. This is not just a tale of value, it's a story of mystery, betrayal, a long-lost invention, and the incredible journey of one coin that was never meant to exist. It all began in the small town of Alamosa, Colorado, where a man named Owen Malloy had lived his whole life. Owen wasn't wealthy, famous, or even particularly lucky. He was a retired postal worker with a passion for geology, a backyard full of rocks and minerals, and an old coin jar he used to toss spare change into at the end of every day. For years, that jar sat on a creaky shelf in the garage, collecting coins and dust alike. Owen had a quiet life, one filled with nature walks, crossword puzzles, and visits to his local coffee shop. But all of that changed on the morning of August the 23rd, 2024. That morning, a strong gust of wind knocked over the jar while Owen was reaching for his gardening gloves. Pennies scattered across the concrete floor, clinking and rolling in every direction. Irritated, he bent down to start collecting them when he noticed something strange. One of the coins was warm to the touch. He blinked. That didn't make sense. The garage was cool and shaded. He picked up the coin and immediately felt a strange buzzing in his fingertips. He chalked it up to static electricity and continued collecting the rest, but that one coin stood out. It had a reddish hue that was slightly deeper than the others. It was a 2002 D Lincoln penny, but the lettering was incredibly sharp, and the coin appeared to be completely uncirculated, despite sitting in a jar for over 20 years. As he turned it under the light, something odd happened. The coin shimmered, and the copper surface revealed a pattern, briefly, like a mirage, of what looked like a circuitry design. Then it vanished. Owen was intrigued. That night, he retrieved his old magnifying loupe and inspected the coin under a brighter lamp. There were tiny grooves along the edge that shouldn't have been there. Even more bizarre, under a strong magnifier, Owen spotted a microengraving. It appeared to be a string of numbers followed by the Greek letter phi. Confused but fascinated, he took the coin to the local hobby shop the next morning. The owner, a man named Carl Gibbons, had been a coin collector since the 1980s. When Carl saw the penny, he dropped his coffee cup. Carl took the coin into his back office, ran a series of metal detection tests using tools he typically used for inspecting counterfeit bills, and then sat down, visibly shaken. He told Owen that the coin had properties he'd never encountered before. The electromagnetic signature was wrong. The weight was off by a fraction of a microgram, an impossible deviation for a penny. Even more strange, it had zero signs of oxidation or environmental wear. It was as if the coin had never been exposed to air at all. They began researching. What they found was unsettling. There were no official records of any special editions or test strikes of the 2002 D penny. However, one obscure article in an old numismatic journal mentioned a rumored experimental coin developed by a Denver Mint engineer named Solomon Traeger. Traeger had disappeared in the early 2000s after reportedly being fired for unauthorized experiments involving coin alloys and electromagnetic conductivity. It was never confirmed, but the article hinted that Traeger had developed a method to fuse trace amounts of rare earth metals into standard coinage, essentially creating a stable microchip within the coin's metallic matrix. Owen and Carl were stunned. Could this penny be one of Traeger's mythical prototypes? As word spread within small collector circles, an anonymous buyer offered Owen $1.5 million for the coin. When he declined, another offer followed, a private jet to anywhere in the world, no questions asked, in exchange for the coin. Owen still refused. That's when things escalated. One evening, Owen returned home to find his back door ajar. His computer was on, though he hadn't used it in days. The coin, thankfully, was still hidden in a safety deposit box Carl had arranged in a bank 3 towns over. Realizing the danger, Carl contacted a friend of his in Washington, D.C., a cryptographic analyst who had once worked with the NSA. The analyst, Linda Morse, flew out to Colorado under the guise of a family visit. After scanning the coin with high-frequency imaging tools she had modified herself, Linda confirmed their wildest suspicions. The coin wasn't just rare, it was a technological artifact. Embedded within the metal was a unique pattern that could resonate with a specific frequency, one that matched low-range secure transmissions used by military satellites in the early 2000s. The numbers engraved on the coin's edge? A frequency code and coordinates leading to a decommissioned weather station in northern Montana. Now, the mystery exploded. The coin wasn't just rare because of its design or material. It had been used, at least once, as a physical key to trigger a secure satellite transmission. But what could a penny possibly be transmitting? That's when Owen made the decision to go public. He contacted an investigative journalist named Raina Durbin, known for her exposés on defense spending and government experiments. Raina dug deeper and uncovered a classified memo from 2001 referencing Project Flare, a Department of Defense program aimed at creating decentralized physical access tokens that could survive EMPs and be distributed within everyday currency. Only 3 such devices were ever produced. All were declared lost. The implications were enormous. The penny Owen held wasn't just a collector's item, it was military technology hidden in plain sight. Legal debates erupted almost immediately. Could Owen legally own the coin if it was technically government property? Was it a breach of national security to allow private sale? After weeks of heated discourse, the Department of Justice quietly withdrew its interest. No formal charges. No seizure. No explanation. Within days, global auction houses flooded Owen with offers. Sotheby's proposed a private auction limited to verified billionaires and government liaisons. Owen agreed under one condition, that the proceeds be used to fund community science centers across rural America. The auction took place in an undisclosed location in Luxembourg and was closed to all media. The opening bid was $150 million. 10 minutes in, it had reached $350 million. At the 22-minute mark, a bidding war between 2 rival tech CEOs pushed the price beyond $600 million. The final offer came from a buyer registered under the pseudonym Argonaut 7, who closed the deal at an unbelievable $697 million. When asked for identification, Argonaut 7 simply submitted a vintage punch card from a Cold War supercomputer, followed by a wire transfer that hit Owen's account before the ink had dried on the paperwork. Owen vanished from the public eye shortly afterward. Rumors say he purchased a floating island off the coast of New Zealand where he now runs a scientific retreat. Others claim he joined a classified think tank specializing in quantum communications. Carl Gibbons, on the other hand, became a celebrity in the coin world and published a best-selling book titled The Penny That Talked. As for the coin, it has never been seen again. Some believe it now resides in a private museum located beneath an Arctic data vault. Others think it was reverse-engineered and used to develop a new generation of post-quantum encryption devices. Regardless of its fate, the story of the 2002 D1 cent will live on as one of the most surreal, captivating, and mind-bending tales in the history of modern currency. It taught us that even the smallest object can hold immense power, and that sometimes, the future is hiding in your spare change. So next time you're about to toss a penny aside, take a second look. Because you never know what secrets it might hold. And as always, thanks for being part of this incredible journey. We'll catch you next time with another unbelievable true story that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the world around you. Last 1994 D1 cent USA coin, where the stories are rare and the coins are rarer. Today, we take you deep into the heart of one of the most unbelievable tales in modern numismatic history. It's a story not just about copper and zinc, but about fate, mystery, obsession, and the kind of wealth that could make even the wealthiest collectors go weak in the knees. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will challenge your understanding of coin collecting forever. This is the extraordinary story of a 1994 D1 cent coin, yes, a single penny, that shook the financial world with an unimaginable price tag of $691 million. How could something so small hold such monumental value? Let's dive in. It began in the late summer of 1994, in a quiet town outside of Denver, Colorado. The Denver Mint had been running full throttle that year, churning out coins at a pace that left even seasoned employees breathless. No one suspected anything unusual. No one thought this year would be different. But as with so many legends, the truth was buried beneath layers of routine and oversight. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the Rocky Mountains, a young mint technician named Eli Monroe was finishing up his shift. Eli was meticulous. His supervisors often said he had eyes like a hawk and a memory like a steel trap. That evening, as he passed a quality control station, something caught his eye. A bin of freshly minted 1994 D Lincoln cents sat beside the conveyor, gleaming under the overhead lights. They looked ordinary. But one coin, just one, had a peculiar gleam to it. Eli reached in and picked it up. It felt heavier. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but when he dropped it on the steel table, the sound was unmistakably different. Not the usual tinny clink. This was deeper, richer. He turned the coin in his hand, examining it under the light. The coloring looked flawless, the strike was pristine, but something about the metal composition seemed off. He made a note in his personal logbook and slipped the coin into his pocket, intending to report it the next day. But life had other plans. That night, a pipe burst in Eli's apartment, flooding his unit and destroying most of his belongings, including his logbook. Amid the chaos, the coin was forgotten, tucked safely into a showbox that Eli stored in his closet when he moved to another city weeks later. For nearly 2 decades, the coin lay undisturbed. Fast forward to 2013. Eli, now a retired grandfather, was helping his grandson sort through a collection of old baseball cards and forgotten toys. As they rummaged through boxes in the attic, they stumbled upon the old showbox. Inside were bits of nostalgia from the 90s, keychains, cassette tapes, Polaroids, and tucked away in a corner, a small cloth pouch. Eli opened it and was immediately transported back to that night in 1994. The coin was still there. Still gleaming. And that strange feeling returned. Curious, he took it to a local coin shop run by a man named Harold Green. Harold was a seasoned numismatist with a reputation for sniffing out oddities. When Eli handed over the penny, Harold instinctively knew this wasn't ordinary. He weighed it. It was heavier than a standard cent. He ran a magnet over it, nothing. He tested the sound against another penny. It rang like silver, not copper-plated zinc. Harold's hands trembled as he pulled out his high-powered magnifying glass. What he saw next made him stop breathing for a moment. The detail in the strike was sharper than anything he'd ever seen on a modern cent. The engraving seemed to be hand-tooled, not machine-pressed. The lettering had a subtly different font, as though crafted by an artist rather than an automated die. There were no visible minting flaws, no post-strike damage. And the date, 1994D, was set slightly deeper into the metal than usual, with an unusual curve to the fore that didn't match any known die variety. Harold took photos and sent them to a few trusted colleagues in the numismatic world. Within 48 hours, his phone was ringing non-stop. The coin, as it turned out, bore all the hallmarks of a minting test pattern, known as a pattern coin, but one that had never been recorded or catalogued. These types of coins are usually destroyed after tests are completed. They rarely escape into the public. And never, in the case of a penny, had one been found with such craftsmanship and material irregularity. Metallurgical analysis revealed it wasn't made from the standard zinc core with copper plating. It was composed almost entirely of an ultra-rare alloy containing palladium and iridium, two of the world's rarest and most expensive metals. It should not have existed. Experts began scrambling to trace its origin. They combed through old mint records, interviewed retired Denver Mint workers, and searched auction records for anything similar. But the trail went cold. The coin was, quite literally, one of a kind. By the time word spread to international collectors, the value of the coin had already begun to climb. An anonymous collector from Qatar reportedly offered $18 million before it had even been certified. But Eli wasn't in a rush. He wanted answers more than money. He reached out to the Smithsonian, and after weeks of analysis, they issued a statement calling the 1994D coin the most anomalous and potentially valuable 1-cent piece ever discovered. Still, no one could explain how it came to be. Was it the result of an experimental alloy batch mistakenly used in the wrong minting process? Was it a secret test piece for high durability coinage that was never approved? Or was it, as one conspiracy-minded collector speculated, the product of a rogue mint worker with access to classified materials? The mystery only deepened when a former mint metallurgist came forward under a veil of anonymity. According to him, in mid-1994, a high-security project codenamed Project Perseus was quietly launched at the Denver Mint. Its purpose? To test a new anti-counterfeit coinage alloy that was almost impossible to replicate. the project was shut down within a month due to cost and concerns about radiation exposure from one of the metals involved. All test coins were supposedly destroyed, except one apparently wasn't. The revelation sent shockwaves through both the numismatic and intelligence communities. If true, it meant that Eli's coin wasn't just rare, it was the last surviving artifact of a classified government project. Auction houses from around the globe began bidding for the rights to sell the coin. Christie's offered a guarantee of $100 million before it even hit the catalogue. Sotheby's countered with $145 million. Ultimately, Eli signed with a private auction in Monaco, where the coin was billed as the crown jewel of American numismatics. The auction drew billionaires, royalty, and collectors from every continent. The bidding opened at $200 million. Within 10 minutes, it passed $400 million. As the gavel came down, the final price stunned even the most seasoned insiders. $691 million. The buyer remained anonymous, though rumors swirled that it was a Southeast Asian tech magnate with a penchant for acquiring rare American relics. Eli used part of the proceeds to fund scholarships, build a museum in his hometown, and establish a foundation for historical artifact preservation. He refused to buy a mansion or a yacht. Instead, he kept living in the same modest house, occasionally giving lectures at universities about chance, humility, and how one man's curiosity uncovered one of the greatest numismatic treasures of all time. To this day, the 1994 D1 cent coin remains unseen by the public, locked away in a private vault. But its story continues to echo across the halls of coin shows and collector conventions. People whisper about it in awe and disbelief. Some still search for clues, believing another coin might be out there, its twin, hidden in some attic, some showbox, waiting for the right person to notice. The story of the 1994 D penny isn't just about money. It's about mystery, rarity, and the strange twists of fate that turn ordinary things into legends. In a world flooded with coins, one stood out, not for its size or design, but for what it represented. The intersection of science, secrecy, and sheer improbability. So next time you find a penny on the sidewalk, don't just walk past it. Take a second look. Flip it over. Listen to its ring. You never know what might be staring back at you. A sliver of history, a hidden treasure, or maybe, just maybe, the next $691 million miracle. Thanks for watching. See you in the next story.